the first time I found them, I very nearly missed them altogether. It was a Sunday morning in early summer, and I had gone out into the garden in my dressing gown to see whether the kettle steam of the night's rain had done anything for my sweet peas. And there, on the low stone wall by the gate, sat a tiny bunch of wildflowers, not from a shop, not tied with ribbon, just a little fistful of whatever grows along the hedgerows out here, 3 buttercups, a sprig of cow parsley, a single red campion, and 1 bent stalk of clover, bound together with a piece of ordinary garden twine, the ends knotted twice, the way a child knots things when they are trying very hard. I stood there in the wet grass with my tea going cold in my hand, and I turned that little posy over, and I could not for the life of me think who had left it. I live alone, you see, at the quiet end of a long lane, and it had been a good many years since anyone had left me flowers of any kind. I looked up and down the lane. There was no one, only the blackbird singing on the telephone wire, and the mist lifting off the fields, and that small, strange, wonderful gift sitting on my wall as if it had grown there overnight. I carried it inside and put it in an egg cup on the windowsill, because it was too small for any vase I owned. And I thought no more of it, really, than that some kind soul had passed by and taken pity on an old woman's garden. But the very next Sunday, there was another. And that is where our story truly begins. But all of that can wait until the morning, because right now, none of it needs solving. There is no mystery for you to unravel tonight, no lane to walk, no wall to check. Right now, there is only you, and the soft weight of your blanket, and the slow, easy rhythm of your own breathing. So let yourself sink a little deeper into the pillow. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let your jaw soften and your hands grow heavy and warm. I'm going to tell you the whole of this gentle story, slowly, from the beginning. There is nothing for you to do but listen and drift, and let the day fall away behind you. Let me begin. My name is Winifred, though almost everyone has always called me Winnie, and I am 68 years old. I live in a small cottage called Larkalow, at the very end of a lane where the tarmac gives up and turns to gravel, and the gravel gives up and turns to grass. My husband, Edward, and I bought Larkalow 31 years ago, for the garden more than the house. It is not a grand garden. It is a rambling, generous sort of garden, with a crooked apple tree and a bank of foxgloves, and a low, dry stone wall that runs along the lane, the sort of wall that has been mended so many times over the years that no 2 stones quite match. Edward has been gone 6 years now. He was the one with the real green fingers, I was only ever his assistant, passing him the twine and the secateurs. But after he went, I found that the garden was the one place where I did not feel so alone. And so I kept on with it, learning as I went, making my mistakes among the roses. I tell you this so that you understand what those wildflowers meant to me. A garden is a kind of conversation, and for 6 years I had rather felt I was holding up both ends of it by myself. So when the flowers kept appearing, Sunday after Sunday, always in the same spot on the wall, always that same little handful of hedgerow blooms tied with twine, something in me began, very quietly, to wake up. Now take a slow breath with me. In through the nose, gently, and out like a long sigh, letting your whole body grow heavier against the bed. There is no hurry in this story. We are simply going to follow it, the way you might follow a bee drifting from flower to flower on a warm afternoon, in no rush at all to see where it lands. I began, I will confess, to look forward to Sundays. I would wake a little earlier than I needed to, and I would make my tea, and I would carry it out to the garden gate almost shyly, half afraid there would be nothing there, half afraid there would. And week after week, there they were. Once it was daisies and a feather of grass. Once, after a storm, a slightly battered dog rose with the raindrops still caught in it. Once, most touching of all, a single dandelion, gone to its soft gray clock, carried all that way without losing a single seed, which anyone who has ever held a dandelion clock will tell you is nothing short of a miracle. I started leaving things back. That is the part I am most fond of when I remember it now. I found an old saucer, a pretty one with a chip in it, and I set it on the wall beside where the flowers always came, and in it I left 2 shortbread biscuits wrapped in a twist of paper. The next Sunday, the biscuits were gone, and in their place was a posy, and beside the posy, a small round pebble, smooth and gray, with a white ring all the way around it. A lucky stone, the kind a child treasures. And that was when I knew, without any doubt at all, that my mysterious visitor was very small indeed. Let your eyes close now, if they haven't already. There is nothing more you need to see, just my voice and the quiet and the slow unspooling of the story. I did not want to frighten him off. Whoever he was, he had chosen to be a secret, and I have always felt that a child's secret is a delicate thing, to be handled the way you handle a moth that has come indoors, gently, with cupped hands and an open window. So I did not lie in wait. I did not fling open the door and cry, "Aha!" Instead, I simply began to spend my Sunday mornings out in the garden, pottering, deadheading the roses, my back half turned to the lane, humming to myself, giving him every chance to come and every chance to go. And one soft, gray Sunday in the middle of summer, it worked. I heard the gravel shift very faintly down the lane, the smallest of footsteps. I did not turn around. I kept my eyes on the rose I was pruning, and I kept humming. And out of the corner of my eye, I watched a little figure creep up to the wall, no taller than the wall itself, and reach up on his tiptoes to set something down. And then I said, as gently as I have ever said anything, without turning round, "Good morning. Aren't the roses lovely today?" He froze. Oh, he froze the way a rabbit freezes, every part of him gone still. I thought, for one dreadful moment, that I had ruined it, that he would bolt and never come back. But he didn't. He stood there, and after a long, long silence, a very small voice said, "The pink ones are the best. Breathe in now slowly through your nose, and let it go soft and long, like a sigh at the end of a long day. You are doing so beautifully, sinking down into the warm." I turned around then slowly, and I saw him properly for the first time. He was perhaps 6 years old, with a mop of hair that badly needed cutting, and a jumper that was a little too big, the cuffs pulled down over his hands. He had a smear of mud on one cheek, and the most serious, careful eyes I think I have ever seen on so small a person. In his hand was that Sunday's posy, 2 clovers, and a buttercup, and a stem of forget-me-nots, blue as a summer morning. I did not rush toward him. I stayed exactly where I was, down among the roses, so that I would not be a tall and looming thing, and I said, "My name is Winnie, and I have been wondering, for weeks and weeks, who my kind flower friend could be." He looked at his shoes. He looked at the flowers in his hand. And then he held them out to me across the wall, his arms stretched as far as it would go, and he said, "They're for you. My name's Tobias, but Mum calls me Toby." And that, my dear, was the beginning of everything. Let yourself drift now. You don't need to follow every word. Let them wash over you like warm water, like the sound of rain on a roof when you are safe and dry beneath it. Toby lived, it turned out, in the little gray cottage 3 doors down the lane, the one with the peeling green door that had stood empty for a long while. And then, that spring, had quietly filled up with a family again. He had moved there in the winter with his mother, a soft-spoken young woman named Ellen, and it had not, I gathered slowly over many Sundays, been an easy year for either of them. There was no father in the picture now. It was just the 2 of them, learning a new lane and a new life. And Ellen worked long, tiring hours, and was often weary in the way that young mothers on their own so often are. Toby being a solitary and thoughtful little boy, had taken to walking. Up and down the lane in all weathers, learning every hedgerow and every gate. And it was on those walks that he had discovered my garden, spilling over its old stone wall, full of color and bees, and had decided, entirely on his own, that it was the most wonderful thing he had ever seen. He could not pick my flowers, of course. That would not have been right, and Toby, bless him, had a very firm sense of what was right. So instead, he had gathered the wild ones from the lane and the fields, the flowers that belonged to no one, and he had tied them with twine borrowed from his mother's kitchen drawer, and he had left them for me. A gift from a garden to a garden. From one lonely soul who loved growing things to another, though neither of us had known at first that the other was lonely at all. Now let us slow right down, because you are doing so well at letting go. Breathe in slow and soft, and out. Feel how heavy your arms have become, how warm. Feel the bed holding you completely, so that you do not have to hold yourself up at all. There is nowhere to be. There is nothing to carry. Just the next quiet word and the next. After that first Sunday, Toby came often. Not just on Sundays now, but on long summer evenings too, slipping through the gate and appearing at my elbow while I worked. I taught him things, the small green things Edward had once taught me. How to pinch out the tops of the broad beans. How to tell a weed from a seedling, which is harder than it sounds and takes a gentle sort of patience. How to hold a worm without any fear at all, and why a garden should love its worms. I gave him a patch of his own, down by the sunny end of the wall, a square of earth no bigger than a tea tray, and I let him plant whatever he liked in it. He chose sunflowers because he wanted, he told me very seriously, to grow one taller than himself, and then taller than me, and then, if he possibly could, taller than the whole cottage. We planted the seeds together, his small, muddy fingers and my old ones, pressing each one down into the warm, dark soil. And every evening after that he would come and check on them, crouched down with his chin on his knees, watching a patch of bare earth as though he could coax the green up out of it by love alone. And you know, I rather think he could. Let your eyes stay closed now. Let the story come to you through the dark, soft and warm, like the smell of earth after rain. It was the sunflowers, in the end, that brought Ellen to my gate. She had known, of course, that her boy was spending his hours somewhere. But young mothers on their own carry so much worry, and I think she had been half afraid of what she might find, afraid, perhaps, of an old woman who might not want a small, muddy child underfoot. But one warm evening, she walked down the lane to fetch him for his bath, and she found the two of us kneeling side by side in the last of the golden light. Toby chattering away 19 to the dozen about aphids, and me laughing, truly laughing, in a way I had not laughed since before Edward died. I looked up and saw her standing at the gate, and I saw her face soften, all the worry going out of it at once, the way a fist unclenches. And I stood up, brushing the soil from my knees, and I said, "You must be Toby's mum. He is the finest gardener I have ever met, and I mean that with all my heart. Will you come in and have some tea?" She hesitated, and then she came in through the gate, and she sat with me on the old bench by the apple tree while Toby watered his sunflowers with tremendous care, and we talked, the way women can sometimes talk when the light is soft and a child is happily occupied nearby. She told me a little of her hard year. I told her a little of mine. And by the time the first star came out over the crooked apple tree, something had been decided between us, quietly, without either of us ever saying it aloud. We would be, from now on, a part of each other's lives. Breathe in slow and easy, and out slower still. There is nothing left in the day that needs you. Let it all drift away downstream. That was 3 summers ago now. The sunflowers, in case you are wondering, grew taller than Toby. They grew taller than me, too, that very first year. And the year after that, one glorious specimen grew right up past the guttering, and Toby stood beneath it with his arms flung wide and declared it the tallest sunflower in the entire world. And I did not argue, because, for all I know, it was. Ellen and I have grown close as anything. She comes on Sunday afternoons now, and we cook together. And the old cottage that was so quiet for so long is full of the good noise of a family again. Pans clattering, a small boy thundering up and down the stairs, the radio on low. She is not my daughter, and yet she is entirely my daughter in every way that matters. Both things are true. And Toby, my Toby, he is 9 now, all long legs and big front teeth, and he still leaves flowers on the wall some Sundays, though these days he grows a good many of them himself, in his patch by the wall, which has long since outgrown the size of a tea tray. He calls me his garden granny. I do not think I have ever, in all my life, been given a finer title. Let yourself go all the way soft now. You are nearly at the end, and the end is the gentlest part of all. I have thought about it often, in the quiet evenings, how the whole of it turned on such a very small thing. A fistful of hedgerow flowers on a stone wall. A gift so tiny it could sit in an egg cup. And yet it was enough to reach across a lane and pull 2 lonely houses together into one warm circle of light. I had spent 6 years believing that my family was behind me, gone with Edward into the past. And all the while, 3 doors down, A small boy and his tired mother were waiting, without either of us knowing it, to become my family too. Family, I have come to understand, is not only the people you begin with. Family is also the people who leave you flowers, the people who plant sunflowers in your garden and thunder up your stairs and call you Granny with no blood between you at all. Family is the people who keep showing up on Sunday after Sunday until the showing up becomes a love as deep and settled as any in the world. So let it warm you now, that thought, as you drift. Somewhere out there, on quiet lanes, small kindnesses are being left on old stone walls, and lonely hearts are being gently, patiently found. Let it all go now, softly. The lane, the wall, the little bunch of flowers tied with twine. Let it dissolve like sugar in warm tea. You have nothing to decide tonight. No mystery to solve, no gate to watch, no love to search for. There is only the warmth of your bed, and the soft dark, and the slow tide of your own breathing, carrying you gently out. Breathe in slow and easy, and out slower still. You are safe. You are warm. You are exactly where you need to be. Let the next breath be even softer than the last, and the next softer still. Rest now, sleep now. I will keep the kettle warm and a posy of wildflowers on the sill and the light on in the window. And I will be here telling quiet stories whenever you need somewhere gentle to go. Good night.